guys, it's Bree. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm reacting to this video called Jeffree Star is getting dragged over tone deaf new cremated palette. This palette has gotten so much backlash on the internet. Now, as I said in my Shane Dawson reaction, I don't know which one I'm putting up first. I was never like I don't support Jeffree like directly. I only knew him through Shane, and then I found out all the racist stuff that he was doing, so I kind of take a step back. But I've never been like a huge supporter of Jeffree's. I'm not subscribed to his YouTube channel. I never was. I haven't bought any of his makeup, but I did like him as a person up until I found out about the stuff that he was doing. So with that being said, I think that the backlash with this palette has been kind of misconstrued a little bit because people are making it to be something that I personally feel like is not. And like I said, I'm not defending Jeffree, but I think that if they touch on it in this video, I think people are overreacting just a little bit, because if you're a real fan of Jeffree's, then you watch the documentaries. I watched the documentaries that he had with Shane, and you would know that every single one of his makeup palettes, or like anything that he does makeup related, it's like a whole year's project. Like, he didn't just come out the blue with this palette. He's been working on this for a minute. He does with all his palettes. So, and again, I don't know if they're going to touch on this, but people are saying that he is being very insensitive for coming up with a palette called Cremated and having all of these death references in the middle of a pandemic. I don't think this palette has any correlation to this pandemic. He was already going to put it out. It just was really bad timing, I guess. But I don't think that he was being malicious with this palette. But again, I'm not defending him, his character, or anything that he's done in the past. But for this specific issue, I don't think that the two go together. But anyway, let's see what this video is about.
More than that, there's always so many meanings with my art. And that's what it is. It's mine. I created it for the world. It is allowed to be interpreted any way that anyone wants to take it. But I always come from a good place.
So as you all know by now, if you're a longtime fan of the channel, Jeffree Star is always getting into scandals. And last week he got into his latest scandal after he released his new palette. Hey, what's up, IOers? It's Mackenzie here, and today on the channel, I'm going to be filling you in on Jeffree Star's latest scandal. But before I get into it, make sure to subscribe down below if you want to be kept up to date with all of the juiciest YouTube scandals that we cover on this channel. So last week in a video, Jeffree announced that he was going to be launching his palette called the Cremated Collection on
I just don't like the
2nd.
name.
And he spoke about the inspiration for the palette being his catchphrase, "I'm deceased," as a way to hype something up as being really awesome or sickening, as he always says. The collection was also inspired by gothic makeup looks, with the palette being filled with pale ivory to jet black,
and a lot of people didn't like the colors either.
And glitter shades as well. But because of the global issue our world is facing right now, and has been facing for the last few months, when this launched, the backlash came pretty quickly, with people calling the new collection very out of touch with all of the people that have lost loved ones recently.
I don't think it's related.
Memories for these people. But there's evidence coming out that Jeffree had been planning this launch for years, and it went into production
as he always does.
Started affecting our everyday lives. But people are saying that this is really bad timing and probably should have just been put off for
It is.
In a Snapchat video, Jeffree actually responded to this backlash, saying that his art has more meanings than people are giving it, and it's coming from a good place. He also got pretty deep with his fans, admitting that his father and his 2 dogs that had passed away were all cremated. So it wasn't meant to be insensitive, as Jeffree has dealt with these things himself. And for all the people like me who are wondering why Jeffree just didn't push back the launch until a few months from now, YouTuber Sebastian Williams actually reached out to Jeffree for a comment on this, with Jeffree responding that he could not delay for quality control purposes, and that his other launch is coming this year, and if they were to push back this launch, they'd be risking the quality of the makeup and it becoming expired. And he wants to ensure that his customers are getting the best quality product that he can produce. So after all this came out, it is becoming pretty clear that there are multiple sides to this story. Like, I can definitely relate to people who are
that makes sense.
Touch. And I have to say, when I first heard the collection, I wasn't offended, but I did definitely think that he was gonna get backlash for this. Like, the name is pretty morbid. But then
yeah, I just didn't like the name.
Like, is there ever a really good time
Cremated
to release a palette named that? Like, I think it probably would have gotten some sort of criticism regardless of when it was launched, because it's just a very morbid and kind of strange thing to name a palette. But I also gotta say, when I first saw it, I was shocked at how many colors looked the same. Like someone even color coded the shades that they thought looked identical.
Yeah.
To be honest, they looked almost exactly the same to me. But as always, I would really love to hear all your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Are people just being too sensitive? Or do you
I
think that
think
Jeffree should
so,
have
a
just
little
taken a
bit.
potential financial hit and changed the name or date of the launch? Let me know down below. But before I go, I'm gonna shout out some comments from my celebrities.
Okay, I'm gonna end it right there. Here's the thing. I'm a firm believer in you can't tell people how to feel, right? So I can imagine people who have like lost people, unfortunately, they're gonna feel some type of way about a palette that's inspired by death, like, because it affects them personally. But what I would say to that is, if something like this is triggering for you, then just don't get the palette. If need be, if you're following, Jeffree Star Cosmetics on social media, unfollow them for the time being, maybe until the next palette launches. You have to make these decisions for yourself. You can't I don't think that there is any benefit in, going on social media, spreading hate, and, I just don't think that there's any benefit to that whatsoever. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I just feel like this is more of like a personal issue, and people are kind of like projecting themselves onto, this. Like, I just feel like they're making an issue out of like, it's not, this palette is not inspired by this pandemic. I get everyone is probably even more sensitive than before during this whole quarantine stuff, but I just don't think that it's that deep. I think people need to relax. Again, this isn't like me defending Jeffree and his character. I know Jeffree has some very questionable things that he does, but as far as this like isolated incident, I don't think this palette had anything to do with COVID. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you guys give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.